How's my hair? Okay, that's better. Welcome to another episode of Metal Inspiration and Motivation. Today, I'm gonna give you 3 awesome tips on how to stop overthinking and get some movement, make some traction, and start taking action in whatever it is that you're wanting to do with your life. How many times have you sat down to perform a specific task, but then you end up sitting there overthinking, just going back and forth on certain things? What should I use? What should I write? Should I do this? Should I do that? And then 15 minutes goes by, 30 minutes goes by, or if you're like me, maybe an hour goes by and you end up doing nothing. Maybe it's a song you're wanting to write or record. Maybe it's a book that you're wanting to start, or maybe it's that last chapter that you're just struggling with. Or maybe it's something at work. Maybe you're in the office and you have this task you have to perform by a certain time, but you just have trouble deciding, well, should I do it this way or that way? So I'm gonna give you 3 tips that have really helped me, and I think that it's gonna help you as well to get traction and movement on what you're wanting to accomplish. Tip number 1 has to do with your intent. Before you sit down or stand up to perform that task that you know you need to do, I want you to step back for a couple seconds and I want you to think about, what's the end result look like from this task that I'm about to perform? And I'll give you a concept that I got out of a book that I just finished recently called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. I believe this is habit number 2, but the book states to begin with an end. Before you do that thing that you're about to do, I want you to take just a few seconds or maybe a few minutes and step back and say, what's the end result that I expect to get out of this? Because 2 things happen if we don't have that end state in mind. One is we have the tendency to overthink, right? Because we're not really sure where we're going. We don't have that end state in mind. So like, well, should I do this or should I do that? The other thing that happens is simply we do nothing, is inactivity, which usually is a result of overthinking the process. So always have that end state in mind before you start that task. And this is gonna help you kind of plow through those times where you can't quite decide which direction to go. Tip number 2 is avoiding the shiny object syndrome. Now, this is a big tendency for musicians like myself, and like I know a lot of you watching right now. There's all these virtual tools out there, virtual amps and sounds that we can use for our guitars, for example, even with different hardware, even with amps and guitars and that sort of thing. And this can really happen to anyone. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, what passion you're pursuing, or what business that you're starting or developing. There's all these tools that we can use that can help us, and these are often great tools. We need these resources because it does make life a little bit more convenient and more efficient. However, it's really easy to get caught up into everything new that's coming in. I'll give you a quick example here. So my last album, I was literally banging my head, no pun intended, on what virtual amp software I should use for my sound. Now again, I'm not saying you shouldn't try things out to see what works best for you, but there were all these virtual amp sims just coming out left and right, new products. So I found myself getting really stressed out. It's like, okay, I've got this sound and I like this sound, but there's this, that, and that. So maybe I should use one of those. Then something new would come out like the week after that. Well, maybe I should use this. And I got to the point where I was overthinking this so much that I was not making traction. And that's what you need to focus on. Movement, making traction, not being busy, right? Not pretending to be busy by trying to decide what's best. Again, I'm not saying don't do your due diligence, so don't get me wrong here. What I'm saying is there's gotta be a point that you come to, it's like, okay, I've got it, this is working for me, let's move forward. Let's not just stand still here and not do anything at all while we're overthinking the process with all the new shiny objects that we have to choose from. And here's the thing, I went back later and compared the tone that I used for the album to some of the other tones, and once I had everything all in the mix with the drums and everything else and all the post-processing, it's like, there was not really a tremendous difference anyway. In other words, it would not have mattered what tone I picked at that point, because all the new shiny objects, everything was so similar in nature. And again, once you add everything into the mix, it just didn't matter. So don't let the shiny object syndrome hold you back from moving forward and taking the action that you need to take to get to that end state that we talked about in tip 1. The third tip that will really help keep you from overthinking is a really simple tip: planning. You have to plan that action before you take that action. That's going to help you with the intent. Again, I'm circling back to tip number 1. We talked about intent, beginning with an end. And planning will also help you avoid that whole shiny new object syndrome as well, because if you have the plan and stick to that plan, you know that once you complete this step, you go to the next step, you keep going, you know what the end state is, and boom, 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 you knock it out. There's no room to stop and overthink about anything. Now, I like to go old school on this. In fact, I wrote down the plan for this video here. These are all the steps right here. My handwriting's messing, and I know you can't read that, but something magical happens when you physically write stuff down. You have a tendency to stick with that plan when you write things down. Now, here's what happens when you don't have a plan and when you don't write that plan out before performing that task. You will more than likely take several hours to do something that should have only taken you maybe 20-30 minutes, because you'll keep getting hung up on what way should I go, what tool should I use. Not really sure what the end state is, so we're just gonna do. And you will continue to overthink and just waste so much time. Now again, I recommend you using the pen and paper. Go old school, or pencil and paper, write it out. But you can use the electronic tools that are available too. Just don't overthink which electronic tool to use. Pick one and go with it. So let me know in the comments some of the things that you have had trouble with overthinking kind of getting in the way of you taking that proper action that you know you need to be taking. And leave me also a comment to let me know if these tips help you. Seriously, I challenge you to start implementing some of these things to help you just get on that course to taking the action that you need to take. Because at the end of the day, that's really what counts, the proper action to get to where we need to be, and not overthinking the process to the point that we just don't do anything and waste time. And real quick, guys, the reason I put these videos out there, my Metal Inspiration and Motivation series, MIM, the reason I put this stuff out there is that I truly have a heart for you guys, all of you. I truly want to help you guys be more successful. Of course, as musicians and guitar players, that's why most of you are watching my channel. But in anything that you do, in everything that you do, whether it be your business or your job or some other passion that you have, I truly believe the world is a better place when we're pursuing the things that we love, and we're pursuing those things that we're passionate about, and we're moving that needle forward. So I want to see all of you guys succeed in everything that you do. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please give it a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed and all that good stuff. Also, if you want to learn more about me and my music, there are several links in the YouTube description. So check those out, spend some time on those pages, and you'll get to hear some of my music and some other stuff that I'm into as well. And just when you thought this video was over, nope, we've got to play some metal first. Don't forget to check out the links in the video description. Until next time, keep it metal.